Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. And on today's video, we're going to check the fuel pump and the fuel system on the CBR600 F3. So the last couple of times that I started the bike up, it took a significant amount of cranking to get it to start. So now that could be, a couple of reasons. One is it had sat for, the last time it was sitting for a year before, since I started it up, which was a long time, too long. But so it took, a good 10 cranks and a lot of time to get the thing to fire up. So I thought, well, let me just double check that my fuel pump is working properly. Make sure that all that fuel system is delivering fuel as it's supposed to. I mean, once it starts up, it idles fine, it runs great, it revs out good, blah, blah, blah. So I just figured I'd just double check everything. And since I haven't done that before, I thought I would record a video on it and see what I learn along the way. So we'll see. So there's the voltage going from the black and white to ground. So that's good. The next test says check for continuity between the black and blue wire and ground, and it would appear that I have continuity. So that is a problem. All right, so there's about 4 or so steps in the testing of this, and so I failed on step 2, which says there should not be continuity between the black and blue wire and ground. And if there is, then you have to replace the relay, which makes absolutely no sense to me, except in this scenario, I guess, where there's a big assumption being made in the manual. So the way I believe this works, because I had voltage with the ignition on with the black and white wire, that tells me that's the power supply to the relay. And then when the relay does its thing, it provides power to the blue and black wire. And at the fuel pump, there's a blue and black wire coming in and a green wire, which is part of a later test. And so my assumption is that if I have continuity between this wire, the blue and the black, and ground, then it's assuming that there's a complete circuit between here, the blue and black wire, through the fuel pump, back out through the green wire to ground. And it's assuming at that point that the fuel pump is good, even though it tells you to stop testing and that it's your relay that's bad. Even though you actually haven't tested the relay, you've just tested continuity through the pump, and therefore they assume that the relay is bad. Okay, I mean, I'm no expert on electrical, and that's part of the problem here, but that seems like a lot of assumptions to me. I mean, and it also, I don't know whether I should continue testing the pump, because the next thing is you're supposed to jump the black and white wire and the black and blue wire here, and then continue testing voltage at the pump. And then I could also potentially do a flow test at the pump if the pump is working, which is what I wanted to do in the first place. So I'm going to ask some questions online in the CBR600 forum, because there's folks there that know more about these bikes than me. But on the surface of it, it seems to me like the manual just kind of likes to make the assumption that this cannot go bad at the same time that the fuel pump goes bad. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it just seems to me like, why would you not continue testing everything? Because it says you can only test the fuel pump if you end up with no continuity between the black and the blue and the ground. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would have thought you would just kind of continue testing everything. The only reason I'm not testing everything right now is I don't know enough about what sort of You know, could I do any damage to anything else? I don't think so. But again, I'd rather ask, and I'd rather learn from somebody that knows more about electrical than I do. All right, so my impatience is getting the better of me. I'm just going to go ahead. I've jumped the 2 wires, and I'm going to turn on the ignition, and we'll see if I hear the fuel pump. There it is. So I left a jumping wire in place and it fired right up. So maybe do I assume? I mean, it's the other thing I can do is I have to pull all the hoses off here and test the flow from the pump. Or I can assume that I've got a bad relay. Okay, so I've reconnected the relay and the pump is working. I can feel it. Same feeling I had when I just turned the ignition on with jumping it. Okay, so I'm about to do the fuel flow test. I've disconnected the fuel line here, the outlet fuel line, and put my own hose on here. You can see that down here. That's where my fuel is going to come out. I'm going to measure it in this container. It's actually a syringe, so I'm going to fill the bottom part of the syringe, this downward piece here, with alcohol. So my measurement's basically going to start there. And I'm looking for 55 to 60 milliliters or 55 to 60 cubic centimeters in 5 seconds. And that equates to about 700 cubic centimeters in a minute, which is the suggested outflow rate for that pump. So I'm just going to turn on the ignition, count to 5, like a 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000 type of thing, and then we'll see what I get in this container. Now, of course, to do that, I've got to jump that connector on the other side of the bike again. All right, so there's my my jumper, my paperclip jumper, and you can see that it's basically jumping the black and white wire and the black and blue wire. So the black and white is power in to the relay, I believe, and then the black and blue is a power out from the relay to the pump. So this basically just bypasses the relay, and you're not relying on the cranking of the bike to trigger the pump. You just got to turn the ignition on. So we're almost ready to go here. I'm just going to cut my hose to the correct length, and then we'll see how we do. All right, so I've got my measuring cylinder there, and now I'm going to turn on the ignition. You should hear the pump going, and then I'm just going to count to 5 seconds. Okay, well, that's certainly plenty more than I need. I got to barely 3 seconds there. My syringe is basically full, so there's certainly no problem with the output of that at all. All right, so I got everything connected back up here. I just ran the pump again for a second just to make sure I'm not getting any fuel leaks, because I've had that fuel line off, so everything appears to be okay. That fuel pump was pumping out a considerable amount of fuel, so I don't have any worries at all that that's not going to have the right fuel volume when needed. And when it doesn't need the fuel, when there's lots of fuel pressure in there, it doesn't come on. So, and I can feel it when I turn the fuel on and off with the bike running. I can feel the fuel pump speeding up or slowing down depending on demand and fuel pressure and all that kind of thing. So, looks like everything is good to go. Okay, so I'm putting the bike away again after doing all the testing that you saw. And I would say a couple of things. So one, obviously the fuel pump fuel delivery is working great. The reason it likely took a long time to fire it up was there was probably took a while to fill those carbs, or there was some stagnant fuel in those carburetors since, I mean, I ran them down, but I didn't drain them. So, you know, it could be entirely my fault. But anyway, it's working as it should work, so that's good news. The second thing I would say is the Honda shop, the factory shop manual for this bike is abysmal. It is terrible. So when you go through the testing, as I did, when I failed on that second step and I got continuity, it basically says, "Oh, your relay's bad." Well, no, it isn't bad. The whole section on testing the fuel system completely assumes that you're not getting any fuel to begin with. There's no assumption that you're just doing routine maintenance and you want to check that that everything is working as it should. So you know, it's really poor in that regard. And then the other thing, I mean, it tells you to refer to pages in the manual where, you know, it goes, say, 18-5 to see how to jump the wire. Well, no, it's on 18-16 how to jump the wire for that connector. It tells you to take off the right side panel to access the fuel pump when it's behind the left panel. So I'm not sure who wrote it, but it wasn't written very well. But that being said, we got there in the end. So there you go. So thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back very soon with another video.